This is Yosef Rosenberg, uh, my brother in law's father, and he has a story to tell about the Jewish participation in the civil rights movement and the civil rights movement generally in the 1960s that should be told, and that is why I am recording this. Yosef, take it away.
So the year was 64 or 65. We have to research it and see it. But um, this was, they had just discovered the bodies of the two boys that had come down to register African American voters in the state of Alabama, who were found chopped up and thrown into the pond. Were Cheney and Schwerner and Cheney. And a call went out to college students. There's going to be a demonstration in the Capitol, and as many of us should go down as could. So three of my friends and I took a car um, with New York license plates and started driving from the University of Pittsburgh down to the capital of Alabama. We got about less than a mile over the border into Alabama, and we were stopped by a state trooper who came up behind us. Um, this was before state troopers had air conditioning in their cars. So he looked like something out of, in the heat of the night with sweaty armpits. As he walked over to the car, he unholstered his gun and cocked it. Click. Came over to the car, didn't say a word, and pointed the gun at each of us right into our faces. And he said, "Do you boys know where you are?" He said, "Never mind. I know you're going down to the Capitol to demonstrate with the other northern nigger lovers. And I'd like you to pass up your driver's licenses or birth certificates or anything else that says you have a right to continue to live on the planet Earth." And as we were passing up our driver's licenses, he pointed a gun at each of us. He looked at them and he said, "Oh, Mr. Cohn from New York City, Mr. Rosenberg from New Jersey, Mr. Edelheit from New York City, and Mr. Freed, also from New York. The boys wouldn't happen to be heading down south to the Capitol because, for your own good, and I'm the state trooper, I'm telling you to make a U-turn right here in the interstate, head due north, and do not stop for anything except for gas until you reach the Mason-Dixon line. Because if you continue heading down to the Capitol, you just don't know what might happen to you." And he pointed the gun at each of our faces again, holstered his gun, and tipped his hat and said, "Welcome to the South, boys," and drove away. Of course, the testosterone, of course, it didn't stop us from heading down. When we reached the Capitol, indeed, there were probably 200, 250 other college students down there. And we were welcomed into the African American area there. Um, at a certain point in the evening, um, the police showed up with two large semi trailers filled with policemen in battle gear on horseback, proceeded to chase us, the students, including I ran into someone's house, and the police followed us right into the houses with their horses, stepping on people, breaking furniture, um, and they had electric cattle prods and whips and chains, beating people. They left, and the next day, there were another couple of hundred students, or now maybe 400 or 500 students, and it was said that we had permission to make a march from the Capitol up to, there was an African American college on the outskirts of town, and that we had permission. We had permission to make a march between the Capitol and the campus. However, midway between the march, between the Capitol and the campus, we were met this time with 4 semi-trucks, 4 semi-trailers filled with policemen on horseback, again with cattle prods and chains and whips, chasing us, stepping on people, beating people. I ran onto the porch of somebody, you guys didn't know who it was, and the lady came out with a meat cleaver and told me I should get off her porch, that I was a northern nigger lover, and if I didn't get off her porch, she was going to chop me into little pieces. There was a policeman on a horse that was patrolling in the front, waiting for me to come off the porch on his horse. He again had a chain, and they were wearing full battle gear. They had and so he was going back and forth on his horse, waiting for me to come down. I gave him a head feint. When he committed to where he thought I was going, I ran around behind the horse, but he caught me with his chain on my back, and it hurt a lot. So that afternoon, I went down to the emergency room in the hospital. I was surprised to see that there was a big sign that they treated whites only, no coloreds. When it was my turn to go into the to see the emergency room doctor, his opening to me was, he said, "I've been waiting 20 years to treat a northern nigger lover like you. Drop your pants, boy." So I told him, I said, "I think I'm going to wait till I get back to the University of Pittsburgh to be treated." He said, "That's a good idea, because if you knew what I was going to do with you, you would run out of here with your pants around your legs." Did I mention to you that he told me that the first thing he said to me was, "Drop your pants, boy." All the nurses were laughing. It was very funny. So I went back and met up with my friends back in the African American area, and we were deciding, should we stay, should we go, at which point we were met again with policemen. This time they had formed a V of policemen on Harley Davidson motorcycles. About 10 on the side, 10 motorcycles on the side. In the middle of this V was an ambulance. They decided they had to drive the ambulance right through this crowd of college students, running over many college students, leaving many unconscious on the ground. And that's when we decided to leave.
And that is your story in support of civil rights as a Jew, as a college student in these early years.
And I should mention also that every year from the end of the Civil War, from 1865 to 1965, they skinned 2 African Americans a year and would throw their carcasses back into the African American neighborhood, just to make sure that everybody knew where the power lay. But that ended it. That was the end of it. Those beatings led up to Dr. Martin Luther King making the march between Selma and Montgomery. Yeah.
And let me ask, what would you say the message should be today, given the focus on racial issues. What is your perspective on race in America today?
I don't agree with it.
You don't nothing?
Yeah, because you can't define race. Anthropologically, there's no such thing as a race. It doesn't exist. You can't define race.
We all need to get along. It's nonsense, just
humans,
like you.
Humans. We see that Moshe Rabbeinu's wife, Zipporah, was an African, was a non-Caucasian.
Right.
You know.
Is there any message to America then? Let me just put it that way. America in 2024, given your experience in the 1960s. That's really what I was asking.
We'll have no fear. Mashiach will be here this week. We want Mashiach now. The message is, all humans are brothers and sisters. And the thought that we can't get along is simply an ethnocentric misnomer. I don't know. I'm tired.
And that's fine. And thank you. And by the way, we are sitting in a synagogue. And right there is the ark where the Torah scroll is kept. And people should know these histories where
Jews stood up for the rights of others. You know, these were my brothers. These are my brothers. We don't see the world in terms of colors or creeds. All men are created as brothers. And we see that not everybody believes that. Certainly, these days we see the horrible attacks on civilians, peaceful civilians in Israel, meaningless hostage, people being held hostage. I don't want to go there. More than now.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You did thank you for your time.
Yeah.
And may you be an example for the rest of us to have the courage that you did as a youngster to take the beatings on behalf of people that were, quote unquote, not your people, but every person is your person. And that is what you just said.
It's my religious obligation.
It was your religious obligation.
It is my religious obligation.
It is your religious obligation. Let's end with that, because that is a holy statement in and of itself. Thank you so much, Rabbi, or Mr. Rosenberg.
Oh, Rabbi. The Rabbi calls me Rabbi.
Rabbi Rosenberg, thank you so much.